Canon EOS R Specs. EOS R Summary. Canon's first full-frame mirrorless camera brings to the table a compact and weather-sealed body, a higher EOS 30MP sensor, fast dual-pixel CMOS AF, and nice 4K P30 video. There's a lot to like, such as very good image quality, fast autofocus and sharp native lenses. But the Canon EOS R also stumbles in some areas. Sensor performance lags behind competitors. There's no IBIS. Frustratingly slow burst shooting with CAF. And there are some odd design choices when it comes to controls and ergonomics. The Canon EOS R might not have all the latest bells and whistles nor the most innovative new features, but it is still a solid camera in most regards. Pros: very good overall image quality, good dynamic range and very good high ISO performance, excellent dual-pixel CMOS AF performance, sharp native lenses, great performance with adapted optics, compact design, fully articulating LCD. Cons: sensor performance lags behind competition, no in-body image stabilization, sluggish burst speed with CAF, mediocre battery life, no 4K P60, 1.7 by 4K crop, ergonomics could be better. Price and availability. The Canon EOS R began shipping in October 2018 at a suggested retail price of $299 for the body only. It is also sold in a body and lens kit with the new RF 24 to 105mm f/4 liters as USM lens for $3 $399. Imaging resource rating: 4.0 out of 5.0. Player 3 has entered the game. Yes folks. Here it is. As Japanese camera giant Canon follows Nikon into the modern full-frame mirrorless fray. Debuting the all-new Canon EOS R camera and RF lens mount. Also new are 4 RF lenses, 2 zooms and 2 primes, to kick off the new Canon R system. A quick side note: yes, the Leica SL and M series are full-frame mirrorless cameras, but they are basically in a class all their own, especially when it comes down to pricing. And so we're not grouping them into this mainstream full-frame mirrorless arena dominated now by Sony, Nikon and Canon. Main specs and features: new RF lens mount, 30.3 megapixel full-frame CMOS sensor, dual-pixel CMOS AF with 5.655 selectable off points, ISO range 100 to 40, 000 expandable to 50 to 102, 400 up to 8 fps continuous shooting rate, 5 fps with Servo AF 4K UHD video at up to 30 fps at 480 megabits per second HD video, 1080p 60 and 720p 120 OLED EVF with 0.76x magnification, single SD card slot with UHS-II compatibility, weight 660 grams, 1.5 pounds, with battery and memory card, uses LPE6N battery pack, same as 5D Mark IV, CIPA-rated for 350 shots with EVF or 370 with LCD. Higher in power-saving modes, optional BGE22 battery grip, 3 mount adapters for F and FS lenses, excluding FM, USB 3.1 with in-camera charging support. Optics: the Canon EOS R features a new lens mount dubbed RF mount, which features a 54mm inner diameter and a flange back distance of 20mm. That's the same throat diameter as F mount, but it's some 24mm shorter in flange depth, which should allow for better illumination in the corners and lenses with fewer elements. The Canon RF mount also features a new high-speed 12-pin electrical interface that provides faster and more in-depth communication between the camera and lens over existing Canon mount systems. Unlike the Sony A7 II/III and Nikon Z series, the Canon EOS R does not offer in-body sensor shift image stabilization. However, electronic is available for video, which can be combined with a lens optical image stabilization. Alongside the EOS R body, Canon has announced 4 new RF lenses, 2 of which are primes. RF 35mm f/1.8 macro is STM. RF 50mm f/1.2 liters USM. RF 28 to 70mm f/2 liters USM. RF 24 to 105mm f/4 liters is USM. All 4 of these lenses have customizable control rings that let you assign features and quickly change settings without having to use the dials on the camera body. To make full use of your existing F, FS, DSC and MPE lenses, FM lenses are not supported. Since they are designed for a shorter flange back distance of 18mm, Canon has developed an EOS R mount adapter, 3 of them. In fact, there's a basic one, plus two variants that have a control ring or support a drop-in filter between the body and lens. The Canon R has a 1.6x crop mode which produces 11.6 megapixel files and supports JPEG, RAW and C-RAW capture. Design: much like the Sony Alpha and Nikon Z series mirrorless cameras, the Canon R sports a streamlined, angular and an all-around significantly smaller body design than a traditional full-frame DSLR. Compared to a typical EOS DSLR, such as the 5D Mark IV, the EOS R is much more compact and lightweight, yet still provides a nice, large hand grip for a comfortable and secure hold. As expected, in pretty much all aspects, the Canon R is smaller and lighter than a full-frame EOS DSLR. Even the 6D Mark II, Canon's most compact and lightest full-frame DSLR model yet. The EOS R weighs 660 grams, 1.5 pounds, whereas the 6D Mark II tips the scales at 765 grams, 1.7 pounds, yet it still features a magnesium alloy chassis and weather resistance. Design-wise, the Canon EOS R takes a more angular and smooth approach compared to the Sony a7 III or Nikon Z6, or even the Canon EOS M5. For example, when it comes to external buttons and dials, looking at the front of the camera, there's very little in the way of protruding buttons and dials. Everything's nicely recessed into the camera body itself, which creates a sleek, minimal appearance from the top and back. However, the story is entirely different. There is, in fact, quite an array of physical controls, including dual command dials, a rear multidirectional control, AF on button and a dedicated video record button. There are a few unorthodox-looking controls on the EOS R. For starters, there isn't a standard PASM mode dial. Instead, the mode selection is assigned to a button located inside the top/rear thumb control dial. And there's a separate lock button. With this, you simply press the mode button once and then rotate the dial to change shooting modes. Press it again, and the dial's function returns to a second control dial. Although a bit different than your standard PASM dial, it allows Canon to keep the controls smaller while still providing a locking mode dial that isn't prone to accidental changes if you bump the camera. Speaking of the mode dial, there's a new FV, flexible priority, shooting mode. It basically lets you switch rapidly between TV, AV, exposure compensation and ISO using the top/rear dial. Then make adjustments within each via the front/top dial. Thing is, though, it seems like if you adjust TV and AV separately, you're basically in M mode. It doesn't auto-switch the discarded parameter back to auto when you leave it. Also, on the rear of the camera, there's a new touch bar style MFN bar control to the right of the EVF. You can swipe left or right to control or adjust various settings and simply tap to select/confirm. This button is customizable, too, allowing for quick control of a number of settings, such as ISO speed, white balance, movie shooting, AF and more. Much like many of Canon's EOS DSLRs, and a differentiating point compared to Sony's Alpha mirrorless cameras, the EOS R sports a top deck status display that shows shooting modes and exposure information. Unlike the current Sony Alpha and Nikon Z series mirrorless cameras, the Canon R also features a flip-out, fully articulating rear LCD screen instead of an up/down tilting display. The EOS R uses a 3.15-inch touchscreen TFT LCD that offers approximately 2.1 million dots of resolution and provides 100% field of view coverage. The electronic viewfinder, meanwhile, has an 0.5-inch OLED display with 3.69 million dots. The EVF features 100% field of view coverage, 0.76x magnification, an eye point of approximately 23 mm and an eye sensor. Sensor and image quality. The new Canon R centers around a 30.3 megapixel full-frame CMOS sensor, which puts it on par resolution-wise with the 5D Mark IV and above the 26MP 6D Mark II. When it comes to mirrorless competitors, namely the Sony a7 III and Nikon Z6, these two cameras sport 24MP sensors. So the EOS R bests both of these, at least when it comes to pure megapixel count. Of course, as many are aware, pixel power isn't the end-all and be-all of image quality. So the real test is comparing output from all these cameras side by side in our test lab, which you can do here. The image processor used inside the EOS R is the Digicate, a first for a full-frame camera. though it has been used on the EOS M50 crop sensor mirrorless camera. The latest generation Digic processor used for a full-frame EOS DSLR camera is the Digic 7, which powers the Canon EOS 6D Mark II as well as a whole slew of current APS-C cameras, from the M100 to the 77D. Regarding ISO performance, the EOS R has a native range of 100 to 40,000, which is similar to that of the 6D Mark II. The ISO range can be expanded down to ISO 50 or up to levels to 51, 200 and 102, 400. In addition to standard RAW file capture, the EOS R offers dual pixel RAW functionality, a feature that debuted in the 5D Mark IV. With dual pixel RAW, you have the ability to make subtle micro adjustments post-capture to focus, bokeh and ghosting properties. Visit our website, www.giftyourhobby.com. Link is provided in the description box below. It contains unnoticed links to the products, which having huge discounts in Amazon website. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, so that you don't miss my next video.